Hello and welcome to Lutherans Alive. My name is Gregory Held, and this is the program that brings you the story of Lutheran Christians and their ministries in southwestern Pennsylvania. With us today is Pastor Joyce Dix-Weiers, pastor of a two-point parish on the northern end of our southwestern Pennsylvania Synod. Joyce, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. It's always a pleasure to be here.
It's good to have you here and to have a chance to hear about growing ministries in our local congregations. Maybe you can fill us in, remind the members of our viewing audience of the locale where you serve.
Well, we are up in the upper corner, northeast corner of our synod. We're in Armstrong County, and we're really bordered on two sides, only with a few miles from Northwest Penn, so we are in the corner up there. The parish, we're the Elderton Lutheran Parish, and the two-point consisting of Christ Lutheran Church that's in a small village called Gastown. And then the other one is Mount Union Lutheran Church, which is down on Gertie Road. Each one is 2 miles north of Elderton, one's 2 miles south of Elderton.
Okay. And how long have you been serving there, Joyce?
Almost 4 years now. Time's gone quickly.
Plenty of time to get your feet wet, to become acquainted with the local environment, and to become a part of a thriving parish ministry there.
Oh, the parish is growing, and it's just wonderful to see all the growth that has happened over these last few years.
Were those two congregations associated before you arrived?
They were. They've been in a cooperative ministry sharing a pastor for many years. They have a long history of that. I think possibly even close to 100 years. If that's from what I understand, and that's great. But what we have done since I've been there, we have really grown even closer together, not just sharing a pastor, but seeing ourselves much more as a parish as opposed to two separate churches.
Mm-hmm. That can sometimes be the challenge, at least early on in congregations that are associated in a formal way, to actually grow into that relationship and make it a reality. Amongst the things that you do up there together as the pastor, first of all, of course, you're coordinating worship services in two sites. How about the administrative end of the congregation? Are there cooperative efforts and regular meetings to do the planning and administration together?
Well, each congregation has their own council, but then we also meet as a joint council and look at issues as the parish. I think one of the things that has really helped us is we began doing fellowship events together, and people started to get to really know one another. Armstrong County is a rural area. I believe there's something like 700 miles of rural roads in Armstrong County. So even though your neighbors are kind of spread out a little bit as opposed to urban ministry. And you know each other, but sometimes not really know each other. Mm-hmm. And in fellowship events, they've really got a chance to sit down, and it's been really nice to see women from the other congregation in the kitchen at the other church. I think that's always a good sign when you see that happening and laughter coming from the kitchen.
It's an interesting dynamic because it's often been said that the kitchen is the heart of a church building, and that that is often where you discover the true ownership of a congregation. So to be able to share the kitchen facilities and to have that functioning heart of the congregation shared is certainly a positive sign.
Oh, it really is, and it's so good to see that.
Mm-hmm. What kinds of activities were already ongoing in the congregations when you arrived, Joyce, that gave you kind of a foundation to build on?
Actually, there didn't seem to be a whole lot, and one of the things when I got there was that the women said, we would like to do mission, but we have no idea where to go with this. I've been involved in the synod and different activities in the church all my life, and I kind of laughed and said, this is no problem. Where do you want to start?
Very good. Well, I think a lot of times, people who aren't connected with the wider ministry of the synod or some of the other ministries that other congregations are involved in can sometimes feel like they're kind of out of touch or not really have a connection that they can really feel like they're really involved, and they need to be shown the way.
There's definitely sometimes a disconnect when you especially are in rural ministry, and we are so far away from Pittsburgh, which is only 60 miles, but sometimes that seems a little further.
Sure.
And for them to realize we are not only part of our synod, but we are certainly part of the ELCA, the broader church, church with a capital C,
Right.
that we are alive and well, and that we can do many things.
Right. So where were then kind of the natural places to start as you looked at the opportunities that presented themselves going into congregations that were interested in getting involved in ministry and doing things but just didn't know how?
The first thing I suggested was to look at what was needed through Lutheran World Relief. And we kind of settled on doing health kits. So each month we would feature one item. And our goal was to do 100 health kits in the parish. I thought they were like a whole 100. They weren't too sure about that, but they easily reached that goal. And so then not only did we just make the health kits, we took a road trip and went to New Windsor to deliver the health kits. So they got an opportunity to see the campus in New Windsor, hear the people talk about what is happening there. And this is a cooperative ministry with the Church of the Brethren, which is also a church in our area. So they knew some of the people there, and they made that connection. We were able to see the warehouse and to hear the stories about what happens to these kits. They're just not here, but they actually were able to see where they were headed. So that was a big step for them, and they thought that was great. And of course, if you go to New Windsor, there is Serve International, and that means shopping.
For folks who might not be familiar with the health kit, Joyce, what kinds of things comprise a health kit?
Well, you have a hand towel and then a washcloth. You have a comb and a nail file, a bar of soap, items like that. That's, Band-Aids, 6 Band-Aids go in those items, and you wrap those up, and then they go off. And we certainly in our world today have many refugees, and the world situation is such that these are greatly needed.
Certainly things that we in our civilized situations would take for granted, basic health and hygiene items that would really be a tremendous gift to someone who is without those basic things.
Right. A new toothbrush is a real gift sometimes.
To be sure. And then you mentioned the Serve opportunity when folks went to New Windsor. Describe for someone what that kind of a scene is like to walk into a Serve International site.
Well, you have gifts from all over the world. This Serve International works very hard to make pathways for small villages that has artisans in there to have a venue for their items that they make at a fair price. They're not losing by using bigger companies that's taking the profits. So these are pathways for them, and they're just absolutely beautiful items made from artisans all over the world.
I think that's one of the, some of the folks in the Lutheran Church are used to hearing fair trade, or in the Pittsburgh area, 1,000 villages, where people from third world countries have the opportunity to have their wares shown and made available for purchase. It's hard to believe we're already at our first break for the program. We're going to have to stop for just a couple seconds, and we'll be right back.